I feel that I'm giving something back to nature by creating something with what nature has given us and even making it more beautiful by taking care of it. My way of relaxing. I've got a busy career. I run my own business, and this is a mindless way of chilling and relaxing. Just much like exercise is a major part of my life, I enjoy gardening because it's cathartic, if you will. Whenever I mention, people say, "What are your hobbies?" And I say that I love to garden. They all look at me two ways, but they know that I'm a masculine guy. I was in the military, and I love nature, and I love taking care of plants. And I have to admit, when people come over to my home and they rave about how beautiful the plants are and the bushes are and how well kept everything is, it makes me feel good that my efforts are recognized. Great. Underneath here, flowing type of leaves. Take a look at that. Landscapers come over, they say that that's the largest golden hemlock that they've ever seen. Actually, my sons, who are mature now, we built a big greenhouse, a big clubhouse, if you will. We called it the greenhouse. This was way up in that tree. But a golden hemlock, very unusual and very, very healthy. One of the ways that I keep it healthy is all the leaves and debris from my property, I wind up putting it underneath there, and it creates a natural mulch bed. And mulch is when leaves and grasses break down and restore nitrogen back to the ground, and some phosphorus, which enables the plants to have some natural feeding. Here's a smaller hemlock over here, but in between these plants right here, I planted from when they were very, very small, and they're weeping cherries. Now, obviously, they're losing a lot of their leaves now as we're in mid-October, but in the springtime, they weep down beautiful pink flowers. And there's a very lovely pathway here, right over here. It's a smaller golden hemlock, and you can see the way I pruned it underneath, so it gives sort of a mushroom type of effect, an unusual type of look, and you can accomplish that just by pruning underneath. It needs some additional pruning over here, and that's really the key, keeping it pruned underneath, cut away the dead, and that promotes new growth. Very important to get the dead away, and it's also bad energy, so I gotta get out here this weekend and take care of that. Fountain here adds a nice water element to the plants. I'm very much into feng shui and the positive energies from nature. So this is one of my prized plants here. This is a red Japanese maple. It's lost a little bit of its color. But one of the ways that you keep bushes healthy and looking good is you prune them. And the way you can prune underneath to create sort of a canopy sort of look. And you'll see that with a lot of the trees that I planted on my property and that I've grown. But this red maple, Japanese maple, is very special. Gardening is, you know, it's impacted my life. It's sort of a release. I do have a stressful job, spend a lot of time on the road. I did a lot of traveling, and aside from exercising, I wanted to have another hobby. And it's just one of those types of things where not only it's relaxing and non-stressful, but there's also beauty that comes as a result of when you're adept and adroit at gardening. In the beginning and the formative times of my business career, that I really gravitated towards it as more of a stress release and a bit of a relief from the day-to-day hang-ups. Because it is mindless in the sense that all you have to do is very, very basic: the pruning, the watering, and the fertilizing, and the sculpting of the plants. And that is a form of artwork, I believe, in and of itself. Sculpting plants and helping them to take shape, because you could really determine the shape and form of a plant or a bush merely by pruning. And pruning is an art in itself. For instance, right here, if you were going to prune, you'd want to prune right in between here, and that would promote growth going this way. So right at the confluence of these two branches is where you'd want to prune. And you know, a lot of people think, well, when you're cutting leaves off trees. When you prune a tree, it helps promote growth elsewhere. These are twin dogwoods between this dogwood and the one on the other side of the fountain that provides a real nice contrast to the fountain here in the middle when it's flowing. But again, we're near the end of the growing season. We're at the end of the growing season, but it's still green and pretty, and that's the way I love it. These seagrasses have grown huge. This is a little bit of entryway back to my home. And these huge evergreens, they're ornamental evergreens. I planted them when they were just a foot tall, and they're almost like two old men reaching, providing a little bit of a private entryway back towards my home. I have one natural enemy here, and they're beautiful, but they're devastating, and that's the deer. You can see what they've done to my bachelor buttons there. And I know the deers need to eat, but they're also a gardener's nemesis. One way that I keep them away is with natural hair. They hate natural hair. So whenever I get a haircut and my son gets a haircut, we put natural hair around it, and they absolutely hate it. There's also sprays that you can use. And something that I found, I have around Halloween, we decorate the outside of the house, and we have this vampire. I put the vampire out with a loose jacket on, and it blows, and that scares away the deer as well. It's probably the best one. These could be my favorite plants. You see a lot of them, especially through the fall. These Boston ferns. They're very hardy as long as you water them. And one of the key things you can tell how a Boston fern is healthy, when you see these fronds coming out of the middle with the little knobs on them. These are called fronds on the underside, but these little bubbles that you see coming out of the middle, that shows that it's very, very healthy. Whenever a fern grows from the center out, that's a sign of good health. And these Boston ferns are very, very hardy. Area back here will get shut down next week, so it's really the tail end of the summer. It's always sad when the pool shuts down, because I know that's really the end of the season. I look back and I think my first real interest in gardening came when I was 8 or 9 years old. My dad, he was a 30-year Navy veteran, but he had a soft side too, and he planted a lot of flowering bushes around our property, and in order for me to earn my allowance, I had to tend and care for them. But I grew to love it. I hated mowing the lawns, but I loved taking care of the plants and fertilizing them. So it was really early on, but I really had an affection to flowers and the bright colors. Most of the flowering has been done. Flowering is complete, but I also paint, and maybe we can take a look at some of the paintings that I painted of my flowers that I've grown. But my interest in painting flowers and growing flowers sort of grew concurrently. What I do is I build up the canvas with modeling paste and gesso to create sort of a three-dimensional type of effect. Just like on a bearded iris, these are the beards that actually come out. My inspiration behind painting is Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia O'Keeffe, one of the most famous female artists, and she painted big flowers. And that's what I love to do. These gladiolas over here are some of my favorites. Also, some of my favorite paintings. Gladiolas. Here's some gladiolas right here, fresh cut gladiolas. Yellow ones. Of the spent blooms, and I just, I'll take an afternoon in a couple of weeks and just pinch off these spent blooms all the way around. See them? These are one of my favorite plants here. You can see that they're near the end of their growing cycle. These are hostas, and they're perennials, and what I need to do every fall is to cut them back like this. These are also favorites of the deer. Cut them back like this, and what happens as a result of that is that the roots are still alive. The roots grow and make the hostas come back even larger and more vibrant. They grow best in a south exposure, and that's something that I haven't talked about at all. Exposures are very, very important for plants. Some plants require a lot of sun. That means they need to have a southern exposure. Other plants, like the Pachysandra, they don't like full sun, so they need a northern or western exposure. It took a while for me to learn what plants grow best in what environment. A lot of people will not even think about that. They'll plant their plants, the plants will die, and they won't realize that it's because of the exposure that they planted them in. this is something else that people don't realize about plants. Plants give off oxygen, and they take away the carbon dioxide of the air. So they give off oxygen. Any room where there's plants, it always feels fresher, and the air smells and tastes cleaner than you and I breathe. Many people ask, how do you design a garden? How do you design plants fitting around your property? The most important thing is that it's up to your own personal taste and preference. But one issue that always comes about is when someone begins planting in a certain area, they tend to crowd the plants because they want to make it look full right away. What invariably happens is that plants grow and they become overgrown on top of one another, and the roots choke one another. So it's really a matter of personal preference. There's no set design, what have you, but one key thing to remember is that always give plants room to grow. It may not look great the first season, but in subsequent seasons it'll look nice and full without overcrowding. Something to remember is that many types and varieties of plants and flowers, they bloom for April and May, and then they die off. Others bloom from May to July. So knowing when plants bloom is very, very important to keep a really bright, colorful type of planting environment and garden area. That's something that's very critical to remember, that you want to be able to have flowers continuing all the way through the entire season. And by doing that, you're able to extenuate the growing season and to have color all the way through, from spring through the fall. Well, I hope that you have a little bit of an insight now into a man's passion for gardening. Most people think that gardening is kind of a feminine type thing. Well, I was a Navy SEAL in Vietnam, combat veteran, and gardening has nothing to do with masculinity. I love gardening, and I hope that you have a little bit more of an insight into some of the nuances to gardening. It isn't just planting something in the ground and expecting it to grow. Plants need care and feeding, they need attention, and they need technique. They need fertilization. Nature has given us beautiful nature, the bounty of nature, and it's up to us to help maintain it. And if we possibly can, I know it's difficult, to improve upon it by keeping the plants healthy and keeping them growing, providing enjoyment and means of relaxation for someone who loves getting their hands dirty in dirt.